Good evening. For it is the evening here, recording this on Saturday evening, 12th of July, on the eve of the Grand Prix de Paris, a Group 1 being run at Longchamp tomorrow. You will immediately notice that for the second time, this is a recording done without my partner in the antiposter.com, James Robson. I'll also point out the last time I did this without James Robson was for the another French race, the Prix de Diane, the French Oaks, and one chap commented something along the lines of "Get on with it, mate. This is like watching paint dry," which amused greatly. And full kudos to him for making his thoughts known. So I was this by saying, if you're after something really snappy, with a "you must bet this horse" at the end of the really snappy piece, this is not for you. If you want to fast forward to the end to see where I think the angles lie for playing this race, skip to the end. Even then, this is not a race I have a huge, strong feeling about from a betting perspective. This is being recorded mainly for a horse-by-horse analysis, because we have many subscribers who are pretty sophisticated horse people who appreciate that. And I totally understand that many people who come to this video won't be after that. So that's just an explanation of what this is about. So what race are we talking about? Grand Prix de Paris, the fifth French classic, if you like. Unlike our British final classic, the St. Leger, the French final classic is run over the Derby distance, confusingly, because the French Derby is the third classic, the Prix du Jockey Club. What this means is that the Grand Prix de Paris is very much the poor sister or poor brother of its predecessor, and it's attracted a simply terrible field for a big Group 1 and for a classic. Paris Turf, the French newspaper, are wringing their hands in today's edition about how's it come to this, and there were dozens of horses potentially entered for this. They've all been pulled out, and what we're left with is the top of the market is the only two horses who've run in a Group 1 who haven't actually been placed in one. They both came fourth. Pretty decent performances in both counts. But so it's not a great field, but it's an interesting field nonetheless. So I'm going to go through it horse by horse, and then to the end I'm going to look at Paris Turf and what they say about the betting, and how that, I think that feeds quite interestingly to what the state of the betting is in the English and Irish betting markets at the time of writing. So, okay, let's go horse by horse from the top of the betting. Trinity College, Aidan O'Brien, Ryan Moore. That's already something that should catch the attention in a classic. This colt, Jubawi and Hermosa, herself out of Galileo, lovely breeding, is the most raced colt in the field. He's had 9 races, and he was a decent but not top draw 2-year-old. This season, his last 3 races have been eye-catching for different reasons. 3 races ago, he was second at an Epsom Derby trial at Epsom. Failed to win, but he absolutely hated the camber of the track. I thought pretty eye-catching. He then went to the French Derby, the Prix du Jockey Club, where he was 4th. The bare facts tell you he was 4th, beaten a length and a half. But that doesn't tell even a tenth of the story. And it's pretty clear he wasn't run on his merits. He was run as a pacemaker for Camille Pizarro, who indeed did win that race. But it wasn't a straightforward thing to do. He went to the front, but then another horse, Beaumark of the Gosdens, took him on for that role and overtook him. And then Trinity College went back and then came around the outside. The two eyeballed each other, and into the straight. They were eventually caught by the pack, and Beaumark, fell out, not quite out the back of the TV screen, but was well beaten. Trinity College went on to be beaten more the length, less than 2 lengths. I can't remember specifically, but not far. It was really impressive. And those of you who follow us on Twitter and on our website, theantiposter.com, will know we put him up for the Hampton Court Stakes at Ascot when Paddy Power, to my mind, pretty astonishingly, opened the betting at 7-1 for this colt. He won that very easily. Led the whole way. Ryan Moore, a master of dictating pace, perhaps particularly at Ascot, but it wasn't like he stole the race. He was almost 4 lengths clear of the second horse home. Really impressive performance on time form figures, matched his French Derby run, despite that being a Group 3. So on to bigger and better things. Now, he was originally aimed for the German Derby, and Coolmore thought perhaps because this race was so weak, I'm not sure. They switched him here instead, didn't take him to Germany. They've also haven't ruled him out of the King George. They like this horse. They think he's got a 12 furlong future. Be very interesting to see if they do run in the King George if he were to win this, because of course they have Jan Bruegel for that. So summary, where are we? He's the top-rated horse in the race, but not by much. He's a pound, whether you look at RPRs or time form, he's a pound or so clear of new ground. We'll come to in a second. When he was first opened, I did confess I nibbled on him at 7-4 with Penny Pay. He's now kind of 5-4 favourite. It wasn't a large bet, but I just thought that I was expecting something close to evens, and now he is now close to evens. I don't find him a bet at that price. What he's got to do here is got 2 furlongs for the first time ever, though Aidan O'Brien thinks that will suit. And he's probably the only pace angler in the race. So if it's a sort of falsely run French race, as dictated by Ryan Moore, you could really see him be on the front and holding this lot off, given that he is on the form, arguably the best horse in the race anyway. So I get it. It's a fair bet. It's a fair bet at 5-4, but I wouldn't go near favourites at that price. I just thought 7-4 was too big. He will perhaps be challenged for my favouritism, though I doubt it, by Juddmont's New Ground for Henri-Francois Devin, ridden by Colin Keane. Now, all the rest of this field, 6-horse field, the 5 French horses, many of them will be quite unfamiliar to British and Irish viewers, unless they're really plugged into French racing. This one, of course, will be on the radar because he was 4th in the Derby, the Epsom Derby, coming from an unpromising position at the back, made up a lot of ground, catching at a big price. And so any logical progression from that puts him bang there. He's had 5 races, and earlier in the season, you've got form that ties in with Qualificar, who was second French Derby. That looks good. He was beaten in the Prix Suren over 10 furlongs, which has the likes of Lefa, who's 28-1 here. Lefa was actually ahead of him in that. Probably improved, though, for 12 furlongs. Will he want rattling fast ground? Because that's what it's going to be at Longchamp tomorrow. It's bon, i.e. good, but always add 1 for French going descriptions. That's good to firm. It's very fast ground. I'm not absolutely sure. Other doubts in my mind. Colin Keane, great jockey. Whether he's an expert at sort of small field tactical Longchamp things, not sure. He's never actually ridden this horse before because, of course, he's only recently taken the gig as the Juddmont jockey. Some doubts. I could see him winning. It wouldn't be a surprise if he won, but at 7-4, the price is not that different to Trinity College. I probably prefer Trinity College. We'll see how the betting does, but yeah, that's your second favourite, New Ground. Then you have Uther, who is a horse who will have fallen off many a French radar, let alone a sort of British or Irish watching race interested party like us. Uther hasn't run for quite a while, and when he last ran, he was quite disappointing 3rd in the Prix Grefful, which is a bit of a trial for the Prix du Jockey Club. And I was expected to do very well in that race because in the previous listed race, or possibly Group 3, the Prix Noailles, he'd won, beaten Nitoy, who, if you'll sort of bear with me, Nitoy is a horse who won the Prix Suren, beating the likes of New Ground, Lefa, and Azimpor, who runs such an impressive Prix du Jockey Club. So a lot was expected of Uther, but Christophe Ferland, trainer, Maxim Giel will be on board. Wertheimer, number one rider. Said his horses weren't right at the time, and this could have affected this horse. He was also had a fever or spiked some sort of temperature, didn't run in the Prix de Jockey Cup. So we haven't seen him for a while. This one interests me because he hasn't been up. He's done it at 10 and looked good at 10 and then disappointed with possible excuses. He hasn't been to 12 furlongs before, but he's a half brother. Sorry, he's a full. No, sorry, yes, he's a on the dam side. He's a brother to Sosi. So, given that he's got Camelot on the sire side, you'd think that this horse is obviously screaming out for to come up in trip. Yeah, as I say, given he's already run well at 10 furlongs, I find this guy interesting. I think 15-2 strikes me as too big. He's only had 4 races. He's one of the the second least experienced colt in the field. So, yeah, third favourite, Uther, interests me. Fourth favourite, fourth in the betting, perhaps I should say, in a 6-horse race, at 9-1, frankly Good Cen. This is this naming of horses by this owner who chucks CEN on the end of every name. I find it mildly irritating, but perhaps I should get over myself on this one. Trained by Victoria Head, as the head, jockey and racehorse training dynasty. Freddie Head, Christopher Head, Victoria Head. You will have Madame on board, who's a jockey I know very little about, but he was on last time. And his first 2 races were ridden by Christophe Soumillon. This one, as a 2-year-old, he won a nothing 2-year-old race on debut, and then he was second in a conditions race at French provincial track. Nothing really suggested that he was therefore, something special. But guess what? You chuck him straight into the Prix du Jockey Club on his 3rd start. Goes off a 53-1. Runs pretty well. He's 7th. He gets a bit sort of cut off at the start between Camille and Trinity. Maybe sort of loses a length or 2 there. Stays on 7th. He's only beaten sort of three or 4 lengths. He's only a couple of lengths behind Trinity College. It was a promising run. On the back of that, in the Racing Post today or tomorrow, if you read this on Sunday, in Sunday's Racing Post, betting editor Keith Melrose, standing in for Thomas Seagal's price-wise, puts this horse up, and yeah, on the grounds of that very promising run, and could have any amount of upside. To my mind, he could run well. I don't quite see it because, as well as being beaten, well beaten by Trinity College, I think Trinity College had no reason to run as good a race in the Derby as he is, given that he was sacrificed as a pacemaker. So I struggle to see that being turned around. So interesting colt, the most likely raced in this field, but yeah, no, I was more interested in Uther of those middle 2 in the market. Then next in the betting, 5th in the betting, 16-1, Surabad, supplemented for the race by the Aga Khan, the sort of green and red silks, the classic silks of the Aga Khan family. This one has had plenty of racing, and more to the point, is the only one who's had plenty of racing over this trip. He's run well over this trip multiple times. I struggled to see this one. I didn't want any part of him earlier in the week when I saw the cards and I saw him supplemented. Look at this, the Aga Khan team. They just want one in here, and Azimpor, who was their bigger hope, who ran a very eye-catching race in the Prix du Jockey Club, was injured, had a fever, had to skip this race. I kind of think they put this one in because he's a decent sort. Why not? I didn't really give a say in the bet with 16s. Later, I'll come to what French newspapers predict the winners, and that becomes a little interesting on grounds of how he is perceived by, as it were, the professional journalists, and how he's perceived by the market. So I don't quite see it, but the price is getting quite eye-catching. And finally, you have the rag of the race, the complete outsider, Lefa. Lefa, Jean-Claude Rouget. We were ridden the first time by Christian De Muro, who's top jockey I like. This one won twice as a 2-year-old. And then on his seasonal debut was second in this Prix de Sirène to Nitoy, which I've mentioned a couple of times. So with the likes of Azimborn and New Ground behind him. He's then almost last. I think he's 17th or 18th in the Prix du Jockey Club. Now he had a terrible draw, and that might explain why why he was hardly had a great chance of winning that race. But other horses with wide draws ran a lot better than him. It was absolutely appalling. The question is, was that his running? My take on that is no, because we know from his sort of Prix de Sirène that where he was beating the likes of Azimborn and New Ground, that he was running to a high level. For whatever reason, he ran badly that day. If you can take the forgive a horse a bad run angle, then this one is quite interesting. Even though if you were to rewatch the Prix de Sirène, actually, even though he finished ahead of New Ground, it was that one pulled like a train and was finishing very fast and almost caught him. So you wouldn't necessarily think he'd confirm that form. But in a sense, it's all in price. He's 28 to 1. That's very big for a colt who's shown high level of form, and we still don't know where his ceiling is. This brings me on to Paris. Today's edition of Paris Turf, the French equivalent of the Racing Post, in which the newspapers pick their winners of this race. And this is interesting for a number of reasons. I look at these; they're often quite overly patriotic. But in this case, of 15 journalists, 10 go for Trinity College. So there's not been nothing patriotic about that. Then they think he's clearly the best horse in the race. The professional journalists in France, and interesting, not just one of 15 goes for New Ground, who is currently trading at 7-4, and that's quite a rare split. When you have two horses below 2 to 1, you wouldn't normally get the press 10 to 1 in favour of one of those. So I thought that was quite telling. I don't know why they don't like New Ground, unless they're big reverse patriotic. And the only really good thing he's done is when he went to England, which doesn't count, in the Derby. I don't know. Anyway, that interested me. 3 go for Surabad, which I do find interesting. I think I get this feeling there's a default tendency to go for the Aga Khan or Philly when in doubt, but maybe that's just me being cynical. And 1 goes for Uther. No votes for frankly Good Cen or Lefa. The other thing I'll bring from the Paris Turf is their guesstimate, and these can often be wildly inaccurate. Their guesstimate of the betting. I'm bringing this up because it's more in line with what I thought, in that I thought Trinity College would be favourite, followed by New Ground, but I didn't expect there'd be a huge gap back to the rest in a race where there are a lot of unknowns and we don't know where the ceiling of these horses lie. So here's the French betting: 2 to 1 Trinity College, 3 to 1 New Ground. Okay, not hugely similar, a bit more generous. 7 to 2 Surabad, third favourite, in keeping with, by the way, 3 French journalists going for Surabad. Uther 5 to 1, frankly Good Cen 13 to 2, Lefa 7 to 1. In other words, they have what I call a squeezed in concertina approach to seeing how this betting will work out. They know who they think is the most likely winner, but they're not throwing out any horse. But compare that 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 7 to 2, 5 to 1, 13 to 2, 7 to 1, the 6 horses, with the actual real money betting: 5 to 4 Trinity College, 7 to 4 New Ground, 15 to 2 Uther, and you see the accordion is starting to be extended again. 9 to 1 frankly Good Cen, 16s Surabad, and 28 Lefa, not 7 to 1. That's per Paris Turf. So anyway, what's the wrap on all this? Is there anything that screams out you must bet this horse? And I'm very excited about it and putting something on the website or Twitter about it. No. I think the market has the right favourite. I prefer Trinity College over Newground. 5-4 feels a little short though. So I did nibble at 7-4, but and I don't normally like to take favourites with my betting unless there's a really good case for doing so. And basically, I kind of thought Trinity College should be close to even money, so 7-4 made sense. Not sure about 5-4. See where that price goes over the next 24 hours. New Ground, no, is the one I don't want. Based on the Epsom Derby, maybe he's the one you do want, and I could be very wrong about that. But of the shorties, I do think Ryan Moore, likely to sort of dictate matters up front, could just prove the best horse in the race, and that'll be that. When it comes to the outsiders, I think Uther is overpriced at 15-2. I don't have him down as a likely winner, but what is that equivalent to him winning 1 in 7 or 8 runnings? And yeah, he looks so good in the Prix Noir, and there seems to be an excuse for the next one. He's been off since. Everything about his pedigree screams he's going to improve up in trip. So yeah, Uther is the one that interests me. And then, frankly, Good Cen, I note the 9-1. It is large. I note Keith Melrose, the Racing Post, picking that as a bet. I get it. I just don't see how he can reverse form with Trinity College, who was not ridden on his merits in the Prix du Jockey Club. So that would surprise me. But not impossible. Surabad, when I first looked at the form of the races, and I thought, oh God, I don't want this one. He's going to be a shortish price, and I just don't see it. It looks like a plodder, 12 furlong, rather than an exciting one. Will improve for the step and trip. I didn't expect it to be 16-1. I expected single figures, not quite the 7-2 that Parry Turf Morning Line has, but 16 is getting a bit interesting, I suppose. I won't back him, but there will come a point if he drifts anymore, and I probably will. But the other one, I will admit to a little each way flutter. I am having some of Lefa at 28-1. That's just too big for very, very lightly raced, inexperienced colt, the second most lightly raced in the field. He could have a lot of upside. There might be a reason why he ran such a shocker in the Prix du Jockey Club. There might not. He might be the worst horse in the race, man, finished last. But I think at 28-1, that's kind of in the price. You're getting the best part of 6-1 for the place if you want to do 2 places each way. But it's not hugely appealing. Will he run? Would he win this 1 in 28 times? This is exactly the kind of race that can throw up a funny result in my experience of small field French Longchamp cat and mouse games. So that seemed a bit long to me, but it's not a strong betting recommendation. It's just my, as it were, an expression of my thoughts and summaries of this race. It'll go off tomorrow in the evening, the evening card, so it won't be quite so hot for the horses. And if you're playing it, good luck and thanks for joining. And we'll see you again soon, possibly not until our King George video. Anyway, have a good weekend.